hello everybody to the second WPC. Today's date is 5/22/17, and today's topic will be battalions. Here we have Cut slash
Hello.
Grim, Green, no hello from him, Rex,
Hello.
Tickle,
Hello there.
and Twisty.
Hello.
So we'll be discussing battalions, obviously. And essentially, strengths, problems, flaws that they have, including COs, their players, everything like that. And we're also going to be discussing Church's suggestion on battalion changes, which is currently titled Battalion Remodels. It's under F10, obviously. We're going to be starting off with what do you think? Some current problems with simply just involving tactics of battalions, say strategies, what they can improve on in terms of battles and whatnot, and everything like that. So go ahead, Cut.
I'm gonna have to pass on this. I'm gonna have to think about it.
Alrighty, Green, it's your turn then.
Repeat the question.
Their battalions' battle tactics, problems that they have in battle, or things that they could do better, stuff such as that.
Okay, with battalions, the main problem I see is that on events, they're all troopers. They all do the same thing. The commanders do the same thing, and the troopers do the same thing as well. So I think that battalions should be a little bit more divided. Like, for example, the fire first should do this, while special forces do another thing. But right now in events, every single battalion has the same objective, which I find pretty unsettling.
Alright, then we're gonna move right along to Rex.
Alright, in all honesty, I've been seeing a lot of people, like, whenever they get out in the field, it looks so unorganized because there are troops that don't know how to work with a lot of other regiments. So, in my opinion, I've been doing this a lot lately. Like a full scale regiment, I required training for all the troops to get them better working together. And that can go for like the Jedi as well, because we do need help working with the Jedi.
Alrighty, and we're just gonna move to Tickle then.
Alright, I feel like some regiments, they don't have too many things to do during events. Like, I noticed the Shock and the Senate Guard, they were just sitting there for like 20 minutes doing nothing, staring at a door. And I feel like every regiment should have at least something to do throughout the battle, you know? And some regiments, they don't get along with other regiments too well, which would end up in like commanders picking favorites over their regiments will get more people in their regiments promoted than other people because commanders don't pay attention too much. Some commanders don't pay attention too much on other regiments and don't see what other regiments are doing well and doing bad, and don't give them enough criticism on what to do.
Alrighty, and finally Twisty.
Alright, so I feel like some of the battalions are a bit unorganized, whether it's because their commanders don't do enough training with them or just because the commanders are inactive. They don't get enough training done with their troops. And back to what Rex said, or whoever said, they look a bit unorganized on the field.
Alrighty, and we're gonna go back to Cut because you didn't give us anything.
I've been thinking about this, and I think commanders should coordinate better, and they should decide which ones should do certain tasks, because when you see multiple battalions doing the same thing, it gets confusing. And when you see some commanders that don't know what to do at all, that's just worse.
Alrighty, so the next topic of discussion that we're gonna give is going to be current flaws that you might see with troopers. Things that they are doing wrong, could improve on, such as I don't see a lot of medical RP in terms of medics and whatnot, stuff like that. So go ahead and go Cut.
I think troopers abandon their commanders too easily, and that whenever something happens that surprises them, they seem to run away and look for something better. Or whenever they're not happy with the situation, they look for whatever's better, even if it's against the commander's orders.
Alrighty, go ahead, Green.
Okay, you gave a good topic right there, medical RP. As you see, medical RP has been implemented in a lot of servers, but I have yet to see it actually working on any server. No medic does it. They just use Bacta. And another thing I see with troopers is that they on events, a trooper just does what he wants. Normally they are by themselves, separated, and the only task that they do is shoot droids. Maybe the higher ups want them to be together, but it's essentially the same thing. They shoot droids. They should be a little bit more diverse with their tasks.
Alrighty, we're gonna move on to Rex then. Rex. Alright, I guess we're just gonna skip him for now and go on to Tickle.
Can you please repeat the question?
Problems you see with some troopers, such as, they don't do enough RP in certain scenarios or involving their job, or they're just not doing something right in terms of events, battles, stuff like that.
Okay, so I'd say that some troopers, they focus way too much on the droids when they don't focus on the RP situation. Like, as a reference, let's talk about some RP events where comms are down, and some troopers just go haywire and go crazy, and just keep looking for droids to kill them. And everything goes onto a rampage where events where it's RP and comms go down, which would show that some troopers don't know how to act in those situations. Also, I'd say that some medics, they are not focusing as much on the RP standard than giving just healing troopers. Like, some medics don't do checkups, which is a big part of RP and medical RP. Some also don't do, like, let's say, procedures on injured high-ranking officers, like how Dread Priest was injured, which I can refer back to this event, and other events where, like, Admiral Yularen was injured, and other high-ranking officers. Some don't do much, just apply back there, which makes them seem like good medics, but they don't do enough RP on the sits.
Alrighty, and Twisty. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna start off with the medics. I myself enjoy being a medic, but like Pickle said, there's not enough medical RP like checkups. I've been a medic for like a couple weeks, and we've only done one checkup this entire time that I've been on. It didn't go so well because there were only 2 medics on, or 3 medics. There were like a million people rushing in at once, and no one could handle it. And with the troopers, their commander's not there. They go a bit ballistic, and they do focus way too much on the droids instead of trying to cover teammates. They don't provide covering fire as much, and they tend to get a bit reckless and careless.
Alrighty, we're gonna go back to Rex as you just came back. You might have heard that little ding. Rex, I don't know if you heard it or not, but go ahead if you did.
What are we talking about?
Oh, all right. So it's problems that you see with your troopers could be involving RP or what they're doing wrong in battles, stuff like that.
Okay. At times there are troops that don't actually listen, and then there are also times where orders are given and they're misunderstood by the troops. Because at some point I was a trooper, and there's just a little miscommunication. Try and we need to try and give communication better, and try to give it clearer to where we don't have the director or the commanders yelling at the troops, and we need to tell them, say we call them, we need to start actually telling them where our location is, because it is a bit weird.
Oh, alrighty. Well, alright, Rex just finished, so we would be moving on to the next topic. Tickle apparently had to go, so we're gonna be down 1. We're just gonna move on with 4. Alright, so final topic of discussion before we finish off with a suggestion is what do you think about the COs? What they could improve on, some of their faults that they could change, stuff such as that. So go ahead, cut.
I don't think they're clear on what orders they should give their troops. And whenever they do have an idea of what to tell their troops to do, it always seems to be incorrect and contradicting other commanders and sometimes even the director.
Alrighty, and moving along to green.
With commanders, I think they should really just be more active. Like if, for example, all of our commanders were as active as Reds and Cody are, I think the battalions will be a much greater part on LB. And yeah,
Alrighty, Rex, go right ahead.
I would agree with that as well. Like, although I'm not gonna say that they don't have real life issues, like I'm starting to have now, but they need to be on a bit more. That way we can actually assist each other. And I don't know if they are doing this or not. I try and do it, but whenever a commander is offline, just take the initiative and take the troops under their wing to train them and lead them. Don't just let them do whatever they want.
Alrighty, and we're gonna finish up with Twisty.
So, one problem I see with commanders is what Green said, that they're inactive. For example, Wolf is inactive a lot, and we don't really have anyone else in command of Wolfpack when he's gone, because Comet, which is second in command, got assigned to an inactive person. So we tend to get a little bored as a trooper when Wolf is offline because there's no one else to train us. So I tend to switch to a different job depending on what it is. And with other battalions where they're offline, like larger battalions, they get training from other commanders, but they don't have the same orders that they get when their troop is online or when their commander is online. So they get a bit messy on the battlefield.
Alrighty, all of this is good, so we're gonna go ahead and finish up with Trish's suggestion upon involving changes of battalions. So, essentially, it's saying, do we want to add snipers and, you know, specific classes? I can't come up with both of them, and my Gmod's currently not responding, so I apologize for that. But do we want to add more specific roles of snipers and whatnot to battalions? And do we want to, involving this as well, remove engineers and medics and make them their own separate battalions, as it would make RP a little bit easier involving certain things. Go ahead, cut.
I think medics and engineers should be their own battalion because even if they were part of a different battalion, they wouldn't have a specific specialization. Whereas with snipers and heavies, they'd have specific things depending on the battalion they're in. For example, if it was shock or Senate guard and it was a sniper, they'd be used most often during hostage negotiations. Or if it was a heavy, they'd be used to protect people and VIPs.
Alrighty, Green, go ahead.
actually, we used to have this system as I remember there was a medic battalion like in last year, but it got removed suddenly. I was part of the battalion and I really enjoyed it. On that time, medics were really being RP wise, and they were to join the medic battalion. You actually had to do medic RP, and yeah, that will be a good system. And it's always good to have diversity on battalions. So I think adding snipers to battalions will be a great change.
Alrighty, and we're gonna finish up with Rex. Or, sorry, not finish up, but it's Rex's turn.
Okay. I mean, I can understand moving from having engineers and to having like different a certain regiment that specializes in them, but in other words, just I'm saying keep them in there, keep them say in the regiment, just have a more specified regiment that professionalizes in what they're doing or in that, because that will, like, say we're in an event or something and none of that regiment is on, and we require that regiment or an engineer or something. We won't have any engineers on to that professionalize in engineering to get that job done. And if we have engineers staying in the in regimental things, our regiments, then that cancels that out because we will have engineers in the regiments while in case the engineer regiment is offline or so, and that would help in so many ways.
Alrighty, and we'll finish up with Twisty.
Alright, so this topic has some pros and some cons. For example, adding snipers and heavies to each battalion is a good idea, but with making engineers and medics its own regimental thing, it could have some pros and cons. For example, at the start of events, it might be a little messy because they'd have to assign a medic to each group heading out, or would they have it so it's preset to each battalion? And it would be good because it would just help because medics are all over the place on the battlefield because they don't announce in comms enough where they're going. For example, in the event that just happened, me and the shock medic and the arc medic all ended up in the same exact area because Red Priest was asking for a medic and we all went there at the same time and we didn't. Just it's just a mess when we don't know what we're doing.
Yep.
Well,
Alrighty.
in all actuality, that could have been cleared up by one of the medics saying en route.
Yep. Alrighty, so we're actually going to do one more little thing that is being requested by the CEO himself, Church, and he wants to know if hostile factions should be removed. Just simply state your opinion, yes, no, and then give a description as to why or why not. Go ahead, Cut.
I don't think it should, because whenever there's not staff around to do an event, or whenever they're too lazy to do something like that, it's good for the players to be able to have fun without relying on staff.
Alrighty, go ahead, Green.
I think they shouldn't be removed, but I think that some of them should be free, like at least one, so you can test not being a trooper, and maybe buy another faction that is like cooler.
Alrighty, and Rex.
In all honesty, I think this is a touchy subject because, for one, there are people that have paid for it, and it varies on whether or not they should or shouldn't be removed. Because, for one, it does keep people entertained, but on the other hand, they have the people that are, say, are trying to train in certain areas, and the faction takes it upon their hand to go and just wipe them out while they're in the middle of training.
Alrighty, and we're gonna finish up with Twisty then.
Alright, so like Rex said, it's a bit of a weird topic because people that have paid for it are obviously going to say no, don't remove them because they paid for it and they're probably not going to get anything else for it unless they will. But I think they shouldn't be removed because it provides a good thing to do if you're just getting on like right after you get home from whatever you're doing, and the event's not going to be for another 4 hours or so, and you can just be entertained until the event by killing Death Watch or whatever.
Alrighty, so that concludes our topic and our suggestions suggested by the CEO. So we're going to be ending up this WPC. Thank you everybody that might be listening right now. Go ahead and leave your own personal opinions down in the comment section below, and thank you all for coming, the four of you, and the ghost Tickle. Everybody say goodbye!
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.